Welcome everybody to the third in our series of the Road to Recovery events this year. We're talking about the experiences of last year, what senior HRDs, people managers, etc. have learned from these and what lessons we can learn from their experiences. And today I am delighted to be joined by Hazel Hendley, who is the People Director at Ordnance Survey. So welcome, Hazel. Great to see you.
Great to be here.
Brilliant. And then for all the viewers, there's the chat and Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. So we'll be taking questions as we talk today. And so please just post those away as we go, and I'll pick up on them as I discuss with Hazel her experiences from the last year. So Hazel, it's exactly a year since the beginning of the lockdown. What's happened at Ordnance Survey? What have you managed to change, if anything, over the last year?
Wow, well, it's been a year, and it probably has been a time-warped year where it has felt rather a lot longer. But I guess the opportunity to reflect on what our key highlights have been from a HR perspective and a little bit from a business perspective. We were at this point last year about 7 days away from launching Workday to the business. So our HR team were knee deep in that final testing of our new HR system. So we slipped the go live date by 2 days, which I think was a phenomenal achievement for the team. Had I my time back, we could have let ourselves off the hook a little bit more on our go live date. But since then, we have recruited 217 new joiners into the business. Across every level, across every department, and that has been a phenomenal success, and a huge step up in the capability that we have in our business. Really importantly, we've engaged our business really well through this period. So our engagement levels have gone from 68% up to 74%, and it's a really strong engagement score across UK benchmarks. How have we done that? We've done that through really authentic leadership and lots of communication, because we've all seen we're in the same storm, not necessarily in the same boat. And I think as leaders in our business, we have really taken the time to connect with people on a human level, engage them, help people focus on outcomes, help people with their personal situations as people have caring responsibilities, homeschooling responsibilities. We're all juggling the many things that make us human. And there's been a real opportunity for leaders to show that human side and to connect with people, which has resulted in really strong engagement in the business. We've also in OS refreshed our strategy. So we're a business that's known for our lovely paper maps, but not necessarily understood. We're a technology and data business, and what we do matters to the nation here. Some of our employees have been right at the centre of the COVID response at a government level, be that whether we've been looking for car parks to roll out vaccination centres, or routing to reduce ambulance waiting times. So what our employees do for the country matters, and it's been really important that we give them a good environment over the past year where they feel supported to do that important work for us.
Amazing. Wow. So if I understand that, you've launched Workday, you have hired 270 new employees, you've put your engagement score actually over a real hurdle. Actually, when you're getting into 60s, into 70s, that actually is a significant difference. And you've refreshed your strategy. And I'd like to ask you about those kind of things in turn. But before we start on that, you mentioned, or actually starting on the 270 increase, not everybody knows everything about Ordnance Survey. So, is that, were there 20 of you before, or were there thousands? What's the so a little bit about the size and scale of Ordnance Survey, and actually what you guys do would be interesting.
So we were a business of at the beginning of the year of just over 1,100 people, and that we're a business that we've a lot of data collectors and people who collect and refine geographical data. So that's location data, so where stuff is. And we create those pink and orange maps that many of us use as consumers, or on our applications where we can get outside. The consumer side of our business is quite a small part of our business, though really important from a brand perspective. But we have a lot of software engineers in our business, salespeople, data scientists, and then all of the corporate services that you might imagine. We're a public sector organisation, so we used to be part of the civil service, and in 2015 we became a part of the public sector because we're a wholly owned government company, where we are mandated to return a dividend to our shareholder, which is government. Our main contract is with government, so we have what's called a public sector geospatial agreement. So government pays OS to deliver that base map of the UK, which is responsible for releasing about £7 billion of economic value here in the UK. What we do is really special, and we've, probably number 2 in the world from a national mapping perspective. So we have aspirations and some success at helping other jurisdictions and other countries with their national mapping challenges, and that's part of our commercial business. Within the UK, we also help utility companies, logistics firms with that geospatial information, which helps them make smart decisions.
Interesting. So why on earth did you need another 270 people during a national lockdown, Hazel?
Well, the importance of place is only growing. With the more data that's available in the world, the important, what unifies that data is place. And the more we understand where things are and how things are changing, the smarter decisions governments, local authorities, businesses can make, from a sustainability perspective, use of resource, efficiency. So the value of the location insight that our data provides, and our trusted and authoritative position as part of UK government, is very unique. We need to combine our data with more different types of data to enable smarter decisions. So that sounds like a simple thing to do, to combine one data set with another to make smart decisions. But that requires lots of different types of technology, lots of different types of know-how. So we needed more people, more great people to join us to help us.
And that's really interesting. It must have been very different experience for those new joiners, and I know that many of us in the audience today, onboarding people has changed very significantly, because the physicality of our office environments, the ability to introduce people physically to a team so that then they could collaborate strongly across that was something which we could take for granted. So what have the challenges been on onboarding such actually a large number of people in proportion to your size? So how have you achieved that, and what challenges did you meet?
Well, through phenomenal efforts, really, and if you kind of overlay a new system, a new HR system with Workday, so we as a HR team and the business were getting used to this new system, but it has been a massive enabler, because we were able to have much closer touch points through that employee journey, from a pre-employment perspective.
Yeah.
We learned we didn't get it right all of the time, so we were identifying actually our onboarding isn't sufficient. We're a fairly small but complex business. How people join us up, how can we improve that? So creating documents that we can share with people, getting our brand team to support us in creating really powerful branded material to help people understand. And then one of the things, and it was really simple, I'm an extrovert, and I was like, gosh, I joined HR to be with people, and I'm hearing my team be really busy recruiting all of these new people. I'm not seeing them. I'm used to seeing people around our office wheeling whiteboards with cool concepts, and I was missing that. So one day, my CEO and I, we were kind of lamenting the office environment, and we thought, actually, let's do some virtual coffees. And we started having virtual coffees with every new joiner. And I'm really pleased to say that Steve and I and other members of the executive team have had a virtual coffee with every new joiner in the business, in small groups where we really get the feel. And we hear what their experiences are. We learn how can we improve. So I think making ourselves accessible as a leadership team to new joiners, making sure that line managers are really, really supported as part, by HR in onboarding those new people has been really critical. And trying to take away, having Workday has helped make those, probation milestones much more intuitive because line managers are in control of the system themselves.
And have you noticed any difference in their experience? So in those conversations, etc., do you think it's harder for new joiners to become part of the team? Is it harder, or is it the same experience?
Well, one of the pieces of feedback that sticks out in my mind from a new joiner who was with the business 3 months, and he says, "You're obsessively friendly." I'm a software engineer and I'm not used to having so many people reach out to me and talk to me, but you continue to you're obsessively friendly. And I think people enjoy. You,
or as a cultural?
No, the business. So the whole business. So we are a very, we're based in Southampton, and we have lots of our employees who for generations have worked with Ordnance Survey. So we are a big local employer, and there is a real sense of family in the business. I joined nearly 14 years ago. It wasn't my intention to stay. Why have I stayed? Because the people are great, and there is a really great, strong community feel in our business. And I think new joiners have really felt that, and they felt really welcomed by us. We know that our new joiners are having a great experience because their engagement level is about 84. So they're really feeling positive. And our challenge as a business and a HR team is how do we maintain that strong engagement, through the next transition that we're going through.
Well, that's very interesting, because you did mention earlier that your engagement scores have also increased, surprisingly, I guess, during the COVID crisis. And I'd be really interested if you could explain what you're seeing in this engagement surveys as to why that increase has occurred. Because, for a lot of us, maintaining engagement, keeping up those scores, and also the reality of engagement has been a challenge during.
I think so we use Glint as our engagement survey tool, and we pulse on a quarterly basis. So it has an always on functionality, but we've chosen to pulse on a quarterly basis. And what we were finding, and I think what across the UK in those initial months of lockdown, when adrenaline was high and we were all in it together, and there was a very strong emphasis on communication, a strong emphasis on, our communication at the time, we had family first, stay connected, keep the business moving forward, and in that order. So those were our 3 core messages that we were, continuing to drill down. And I think, it's really important with every comms campaign that you think, what are my core messages? What do I keep needing to, what's the hum and the drumbeat that we keep needing to reinforce? So those were our 3. And we found that engagement really peaked, but across lots of companies, engagement peaked in those early days. So in our May survey, in our September survey, we were riding that crest and feeling, adrenaline was in, we were dealing with crisis. And then the winter months hit, and how are we going to continue to keep people feeling good and okay? And I would say keep people feeling okay, because sometimes good in the last year hasn't been achievable for some. So I think it has been a really strong focus on well-being, a really strong focus on think about the outcomes you need to deliver in your day job, and how you work your life around that is down to you. So I think it was really focusing on outcomes, really focusing on clear communication, and a really strong well-being message, and well-being support throughout has been really critical for us. But what we do matters. So all of that good stuff is only meaningful if the business is making good progress. And we've been really fortunate that from a business perspective, what we do, as I've said a number of times, matters within the UK and matters internationally. So we've been keeping our business moving forward, seeing the results improve, seeing revenues and profitability increase. So making sure that people can see the outcomes they're focusing on is making a difference to our business and to people.
Yes, yeah, very interesting. And you mentioned that you're doing, well, actually, how are you encouraging managers to keep in touch with their staff and to continue this approach? Because presumably, like in all our organizations, managers behave in different ways, and some are more suited to this kind of remote keeping in touch with their teams, etc., than others. So have you done anything in that area to try and identify and kind of support your managers in their work?
Absolutely, and I think we've really, using data to spot teams where there might be difficulties, from an absence level, from an engagement level. So making sure that we're proactively looking at the data and being curious about what our people data is telling us, and making sure that our advisors who have really strong relationship with managers are proactively going out there, making sure line managers are the first point of contact, but we're right behind them from a HR perspective. Well, behind alongside them has been critical. One of the things that we've done over the past year is aligned to our new strategy. We have launched a new set of values and behaviours. And that's given us an opportunity to engage with what we're all really good at and harnessing our strengths, and what we might need to do more of to deliver this growth strategy that we're committed to. So that has given us a great opportunity to engage about the how of work, and making sure that people see the how is important. And we've gone further than just having behaviours for all employees, having a set of 6 great things for people leaders and supporting their development in developing those 6 great things. To make it really clear what a great people leader is in OS and how we can support you to be that great people leader, is also work that we've undertaken over the past year.
And what sort of things are those, Hazel? So what is a great people leader in the new normal we are now joining?
Well, I think so I could list out the 6 great things, and I'm happy to, but I think at its heart, it's being human. And I think the past year has taught us all that it's okay to be human and bring your whole self to work. And I think that helps people connect and have much more powerful conversations. And I think that's kind of the simplest way of at the very heart of what it is to be a great people leader, is be human and connect powerfully with our people, and connect powerfully in a purposeful way. So all of us, our purpose is to help others see a better place, and that really weaves through what we expect of people leaders and how we want to delight our customers.
I mean, that's very interesting, because so much of our work culture nationally and internationally over decades now has actually been to reduce that human side and kind of increase productivity, think about all those kind of things, and kind of mechanize the activities which we are undertaking, which to some extent is a dehumanization of those activities. But you're seeing great results from the reverse of that.
And I think with the world of work shifting, and with automation, with AI, what makes us unique is being human. What gives us competitive advantage is being human. So let's be human.
Very interesting. And because I imagine that although it's a highly technical field you're working in generally, it's the quality of the collaboration and the conversations and the creative thought which actually makes the difference between Ordnance and other mapping providers.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I think we are missing the being together for that creative thought. I think there is a desire, and we look forward in anticipation about being able to return to our offices when the time is right and safe to do so, so we can get together for that collaboration and conversation. And one of the things, and I'm borrowing it from a great mind inside our business, as we think about our transition to a new normal and people are talking about how many days a week they're going to go back in the office, we're trying to change that to what are we going back to the office to do? And I think that's really shifting the conversation and shifting how we're thinking about how we emerge from this. What are we coming back to do? If it's a mechanistic team meeting or team update, is that right to be in the office? But collaborating and creating is absolutely where we want to be back together.
Very interesting, very interesting. Now, you mentioned that data is becoming critical, so identifying where teams are thriving and where they are may need more support, etc. And of course, you mentioned as well that you put in new data systems and new HR systems very early in the lockdown. I mean, I suppose I've got two observations. One is, are you crazy, Hazel? Why on earth did you go live during that early period? And then secondly, tell us about that, the actual going live, and then what kind of benefits you're seeing subsequently from, I believe, Workday implementation.
Yeah, so I think it's really easy, and I don't know if any of my Workday team are on this call, but it's really easy for me to sit here and talk about the Workday go live. I wasn't the team who are literally working 24/7, homeschooling, doing all of that in those final few weeks of implementing. And any of you that have implemented and been part of that, it was a phenomenal effort. But
congratulations, team, if you are.
we were too far on the journey not to, apologies, we were too far on the journey to do anything other than launch. And we slipped it by a couple of days. And I think what we always said, and we got investment in such a great system, because we said that people would have better data to make decisions, and that would improve our business. So that was at the very heart of our investment case. And if I give one example of how the team really demonstrated that, we knew people weren't taking annual leave in the early part of lockdown. We knew that, you know, this was going to be a challenge for the business. And what we didn't want to do was impact engagement by getting to the end of the year and saying, well, you've lost it. And equally, from a well-being perspective, people needed to be encouraged to take breaks. So we were able, so the team, the royal we, the team created an annual leave dashboard that managers could access, which showed how their teams were tracking, how the behavior of their team was different from last year, and where they needed to take proactive action. And that was, you know, given to two line managers on a really regular basis, right from the beginning. So we probably started it in May, thinking, goodness, you know, we're not taking leave. Pre-Workday, getting that data in an accessible form to drive the decisions and to drive, it would have been really complex. Now, it still wasn't fully automated because the system needs time to learn. You need to create dashboards, and, you know, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But that was one example that we were able to, you know, use data to continue to, you know, help line managers do what they need to do and ensure that engagement wasn't negatively impacted.
I mean, that's really exciting that you were able to start using that data, particularly when, as you point out, that was your ambition way back when we talked pre the start of the program. So that's great. What other areas have you seen advantage or not so far in the access to data and the access to a world-class system?
Well, I think I probably was naive in thinking this data would be magically available because the system was so smart. That it needs time, and there's a lot of work that needs inputting. But if I think of our end of year performance management phase and the power that having a system like Workday, where it's a two-way conversation between employee and line manager, there's not gazillions of spreadsheets flying around the organization. And when it comes to calibrate, so what we do in Ordnance Survey is at the end of the year, we calibrate those ratings across teams. So, we do it at a team level, a group level, and then a business level to make sure that we have a fair and consistent approach. To make sure that any of the protected characteristics aren't being, unknowingly disadvantaged in any way. And the fact that that calibration is all in the system and we can see that means we can see, where there's really positive skews in this team, what's going on. HR, let's get in there and support line managers, because it's likely that they're being, are they being more lenient, or has there been great business outcomes that warrant a big curve? So previously we wouldn't have been able to be as proactive with where the peaks were, and it means we can proactively be in the business supporting them to drive a more normal distribution, as you would expect.
Very interesting. So but it hasn't been a smooth journey using this data. It's been obviously getting them off spreadsheets in a central database, but then accessing them and getting meaning from them, I imagine, Hazel, is
it is a challenge, and that's where I'm privileged to be part of a HR team where we've got people who are really curious. And if I were to think of what we need in more as HR professionals is that curiosity, and how we can drive insight by being curious. So I think credit to the team that I'm part of, who are seeing where there are opportunities to use data to drive decisions. And I think that only comes from having a curious mind.
And is that enabling you overall to modify and change the service which HR is providing to the business? And in what ways are you seeking to change that service?
So we all talk about self-serve, right? I think HR professionals have been talking about, self-serve, letting line managers, letting employees serve themselves. And that is at the very core, as you would expect, of our philosophy. And if I take engagement, given that we've spoken about engagement, it used to be we'd get our annual survey, and lots of us in HR would spend a lot of time compiling PowerPoint presentations to either share and disseminate the results or enable action planning. And now with Glint, it's a self-service tool, so line managers can get in there, print off, get their own reports. We can then have time to engage in the conversation around what's going on. Let's get curious about what's going on and improve the quality of conversation. We're not the slide monkeys. We're the people who help ask the second great question, the third great question, that helps uncover maybe what's going on in that team. And because we line managers have always wanted the qualitative, the comments, because that's where the juicy information often lies. And the fact that they have that at their fingertips and they can see, they can see how their team are responding. They can learn from other people's action plans. It is really, finally, I feel we can make our self-serve vision really practical for line managers, where they go, it is better when we can serve ourselves, and it is better when HR can come alongside to have conversation as opposed to provide slideware.
Interesting. So you're saying that the switch of work, being able to push some of the activities to the actual source through self-service and stuff like that, have allowed your team to be more curious and more engaged with what's really going on in the business. And is that welcome? So in Ordnance Survey, our HR business partners welcomed into the conversation? And if so, why do you think that's the case?
So yes is the answer, but I wouldn't say yes without saying there's shades of welcome and shades of acceptance. We're really fortunate. We've got a CEO who absolutely has HR at the core. So how he likes to run the business is He's a CEO, and his two core advisors are me as the people director, and then our chief financial officer. So the both sides of the business. So absolutely having a seat at that top table from a HR perspective is critical, and that cascades down because every then MD in our business will replicate. So their HR business partner and finance business partner are their core decision making. So we absolutely have a seat around the table. But let's be real, some directors want you to do their slideware, and it's difficult for a HR business partner to go, no, serve yourself, because that's not how so that's a slow journey of influencing, and that's our bread and butter as HR professionals, finding the ways to influence our business leaders, and sometimes that means you do some slides, and sometimes it means helping them serve themselves. So I think yes is the answer, but the reality is there's kind of shades of maturity of business leadership.
Yes, and you were mentioned earlier that you've been redrafting your HR strategy during that period as well. Are there any kind of glimpses you can give us of what the new strategy for the new normal is going to encompass? What sort of headline things are you thinking of?
Well, we as a complex data business, we have to challenge ourselves to keep things really simple. So our HR strategy is quite simple. It's 2 sentences. It's having the capability and the capacity to deliver on our strategy, and it's having the culture to power that strategy. So it's the 3 C's: capability, culture, and capacity. And that's not going to be any different in our new normal. But what the approach that we're taking to a new normal, and I don't really like that phrase, is a pilot, test and learn. So right now we have about 70 of our employees taking part who are already back in our office because of the data and the systems that they need to have access to. It hasn't been practical for them to work from home. So they're in our office and they're trialing a new way of working where each of our teams will have a nesting landing zone, but we'll have far more collaboration spaces, offer people the opportunity to work how and where they want. So work isn't a time or a place, it's the outcomes that you're producing. So but how our employees respond to that, we don't know, and we're fortunate. We own our office. We're not looking to economize by shrinking our what our office space are. So it's about evolving with our employees, learning what we're all learning. We've got so many change curves to come over the coming months because we've all been content working from home when we haven't had choice. What's that going to feel like? Many of us have got puppies that's going to make coming into the office more difficult. Many of us are desperate to have an office environment. Some of us realize the impact we were having on the environment with all our traveling. So all of those things mean we don't really know, and we're holding loosely what the future will look, and we'll test and learn with our business, with our people, how they're responding, what their needs are.
Do you feel that you're going to have to some extent, redesign the office to create that ability for the collaboration zones? Less desks, more collaborative.
And if 270 people, as I said, joined our business, they don't have a desk in our office. So we've got to change because of that. So we do see our office space changing. We're trialing some different furniture set up now, but it's important that we don't spend lots of money buying new stuff. We're a public sector organization, and we take our we take our responsibilities seriously. So we're making some small changes, some sensible changes. We already have a really beautiful state-of-the-art office. So it's about how we, and I'm passionate about our planet. So from a sustainability perspective, it doesn't feel right removing 1,000 pedestals to buy lockers to enable a new way of working. We'll get there over time as we need to refresh how our office looks, and we'll get there by understanding what's working for employees, by engaging in really good dialogue.
So I'm really liking this kind of pilot, test and learn concept, because I do think that it's what everyone is describing, which is that it is unclear what the the best future working mechanism is going to be. And I think there's also a kind of recognition that it's unlikely to be one size which fits all, or something which stays the same. That actually what might work for the next 6 months, I guess, may change again after that period. I mean, goodness knows, 6 months ago feels like a long time ago in terms of, in terms of our thoughts.
And we're taking confidence that we adapted to the change of the past year with resilience. We kept the business moving forward, and we'll adapt to this next phase using the same, our core principles. So we had, core communication aims a year ago. Our core principles being work isn't a time or a place. Work is about the outcomes you're creating to delight our customers. And if we hold true to that, and we make decisions in an agile way, and we learn if we don't get it right, and we respond, then we'll land on the right side. Is our hope.
Yes, it is very interesting, this concept of agile. We've had several events in discussion of bringing agile to the HR function itself and the ways of working, as opposed to retaining it in its technology kind of original position. And it's very exciting, I think, because I think that actually many HR thinkers are talking about the critical learning point from the pandemic has been that it is a process of constant change, and we are capable of bringing that change.
Yeah. And we have amazing, from a change management perspective, I think, many of us, have spent a lot of time learning about change management, people's response to change, and lots of people make lots of money supporting people with change management. But we've all said for however many decades, a burning platform is the thing you need for change management. And boy, have we proven that in the past year, because how quickly people have adapted to technology, to ways of working, and how we shouldn't suppose that people will go back to slower adaptation after this, because I think we can continue to accelerate, and should expect ourselves to continue to accelerate.
Yes, I wonder, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because as you say, there's a lot of talk amongst change consultants and stuff like this, these kind of groups of people, about how hard it is to bring change. But actually what I think we've seen in the pandemic is that when change is necessary, it happens at an enormous speed. Mm-hmm. So it's actually being clear of the objectives and outcomes of change, which I think is almost more important than the mechanism behind it.
Yeah.
It's hard if there is not a good, clear reason which everyone can see.
You've got to focus on the why.
Yes. So Hazel, it's been great speaking to you, and I picked up a number of really great tips. One of them is your view about being human, and being human has been the critical difference in those managers who have been really successful versus those who have struggled more. And that's your coach to managers, and I think that's fascinating. Then I think that also I really like the idea of thinking not about when am I going into the office, but why am I going into the office, and what am I going into the office to do? And I think that's really a great learn. I love the observations about curiosity and that area, and also the pilot, test and learn approach, which I think is, almost it's a definition of agile actually in a different way, but how different that is from how we all were as HR professionals kind of 12 months ago, where, you could ask me to do something, but I'd study it for 6 months and then come up with a plan, and then 6 months agreement, and then we might start doing it. So it's really inspiring to speak to you about all these changes you're bringing, and to hear more about an Ordnance Survey. So thank you very much.
My absolute pleasure. It's been great to be reflective in a positive way, because sometimes we often can focus on what more we need to do and we probably don't stand back and look at what we have done.
Brilliant. And I'd like to thank the audience for attending this morning. That's great to take time out of your day. I hope it was really as useful for you guys as it was for me. And I will look forward to seeing you at our next event, which is in a couple of weeks' time. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you again, Hazel, and speak to you all soon.